There are various reasons why an ancient Egyptian might have chosen to preserve the body of an animal. One of these was the decision to take a beloved pet into the afterlife. Here we have a queen's pet gazelle, mummified and in a wooden coffin. Tutankhamun, for example, was buried with preserved animal parts, wrapped in linen bandages. This was purely for food, sustenance for the afterlife, preserved meat. Millions of animal mummies, however, have been found by archaeologists in catacombs associated with certain temples in Egypt. Were they animals consecrated in some way because they lived within the sacred precincts of Egypt? Or were they regarded as manifestations of the holy animals? Or did they serve as votive offerings purchased by pilgrims from priests? The physical manifestation of a prayer addressed by the pilgrim to the divinity for eternity. Perhaps it was a combination of the three. We have a particularly large number of cat mummies found close to temples dedicated to the cat goddess Bastet. X-rays of cat mummies showed that many of the cats had had their necks forcibly twisted and broken. Other cats were strangled, while others had their skulls crushed with a blunt instrument. The cats' bodies were preserved with natron salt and wrapped in intricate linen bandaging. A cat's head over the bandaging was modelled in cartonnage, that is a mix of plaster and linen or papyrus. This was the equivalent of a funerary mask, worn in death by a wealthy ancient Egyptian, the equivalent of Tutankhamun's golden funerary mask, but here a cat's funerary mask. The more elaborate cat burials see the mummified animals put in cartonnage, wooden or bronze coffins for burial. This one is made of wood. This was a bronze coffin for a cat mummy. The bronze cat statuette atop the box tells us this without us needing to look inside. This large bronze figurine in the form of the cat goddess Bastet is in the British Museum. It is known as the Geir Anderson cat, after the man who donated it to the museum in 1939. In 2007, this votive cat figurine was X-rayed and closely analysed, and it was found to contain tiny pieces of linen cloth and very degraded pieces of animal skin or hide. It turned out to not be purely a figurine, but to have also once been the coffin for a cat mummy. Although most of the mummies to survive from ancient Egypt are cat mummies, there are plenty of animals that the ancient Egyptians chose to mummify too. This one, a bullock, associated with one of the bull cults of ancient Egypt. An X-ray of this animal mummy shows that there are bones of a dog inside, and so it was associated with the cult of the jackal god Anubis. The votive animal mummies found in Egypt date only to the late period of ancient Egyptian history. These bronze coffins of a variety of animals have representations of those animals on top of them. This one was clearly a coffin for ichneumons. The ichneumon is a rodent similar to a mongoose, and it was associated with the ancient Egyptian gods Horus and Atum. We might not imagine that the ancient Egyptians mummified shrew mice, but here we have the identification of the coffin, the mouse on top. In fact, the shrew mouse was identified with the eye of Horus, which was miraculously healed. And so the shrew mouse was a symbol of resurrection and rebirth. And who would have thought that that the ancient Egyptians mummified beetles. This horned creature atop the beetle's coffin represents the rhinoceros beetle, but in fact, more commonly, it is the sacred scarab beetle that was worshipped as part of the cult of the sun god. Very often, X-rays of these animal mummies show us that they are in fact fake animal mummies. This crocodile mummy turned out to not have an embalmed crocodile inside. The same goes for this Vulcan mummy, intricately bandaged, but presumably the pilgrim who gave some of his or her wealth to the temple in return for a Vulcan mummy had no idea that the Vulcan mummy he or she had purchased didn't have a bird inside. A mummy could look elaborate, such as this one with the protective god Duamutef on the exterior, but inside it only had the feathers of an ibis, not a complete embalmed bird.